Executive Committee of the United Nations Conference at San Francisco, Secretary Stettinius presiding, considers resolutions for the World Security Organization as Europe's war ends. Molotov of Russia, Prime Minister King of Canada, Evatt of Australia, and Anthony Eden of Great Britain join in the session. Victory in Europe re-emphasizes the task of building an effective world organization. Dedicated to that task, the United Nations chief delegates rise for a moment of meditation. North of San Francisco, at the huge Boeing aircraft plant in Seattle, Washington, American workers also stay on the job. Hearing the good news of Germany's surrender, these men and women completed an extra B-29 Super Fortress. They cheer the great bomber on its way to blast Japan. From now on, the only target for United States military might. The home front gets behind the 7th War Bond Drive, symbolized in this statue of the raising of the flag over Iwo Jima. The same flag that flew over Iwo Jima now goes up in New York. With victory in Europe, all New York's lights go on again, and Broadway once again becomes the Great White Way. For the first time since Pearl Harbor, the dome of the United States Capitol in Washington is illuminated, signaling the unconditional surrender of Germany. Lighted, too, is the Statue of Liberty, familiar to millions of immigrants, travelers, and returning servicemen. With liberty as a symbol, the war against Japanese aggression and brutality now goes forward with new vigor and undivided power. A 4-year-old Chinese boy, war orphaned, is found by American soldiers, members of the 14th Air Force in China. Lost from among the thousands who fled Japanese offensives, tired and hungry, he is still wary of strangers. But a village elder persuades the little fellow to go along with the Americans. Soldiers adopt him with permission of their commanding officer. A captain can be stern, but here he's won over completely by the little boy. He's in the Army now, and the first thing a recruit gets is a bath. It doesn't take long for him to learn the military life. As company mascot, he rates the title of Assistant First Sergeant. This unit of Flying Tiger fame gives him the name of Little Flying Tiger Joe. Mess call. He pitches in with a will. And in company review, Little Flying Tiger Joe is a model soldier. Forward march. As the column moves up, Little Joe brings up the rear, proud of his new life in the Army and proud of his American friends. Wounded veterans of Okinawa are carried off the hospital ship USS Comfort at a Pacific base as the Comfort reaches port despite damage caused by a Japanese plane attack. One side of the Mercy ship is smashed. "29 helpless wounded men are killed by the fanatic Japanese pilot. The unarmed, plainly marked hospital ship was brilliantly lighted when attacked. Although wounded, the victims survived the fierce battle for Okinawa Island. Now they are buried in a common ceremony." first airplane trip, 4 hours and 15 minutes from her home in Missouri, Mrs. Martha Truman arrives in Washington to join her son, President Harry S. Truman. This is the first time she has seen him since he assumed the nation's highest office. At the White House, the President's mother poses for pictures with the Truman family, after the President had designated the day as one of victory prayers throughout the land. With Mrs. Truman and their daughter Mary, the President also makes the day one of reunion for the nation's first family. Near Hamburg, Germany, General Sir Bernard Montgomery receives German surrender offers from General Admiral Hans von Friedeberg affecting northern Germany and Denmark. The Germans, as always, seek to divide the Allies, offering surrender of 3 armies to Britain and America, but not to Russia. Curtly refused by Montgomery, they have one alternative: the unconditional surrender of all their northern forces. Among themselves, the Germans discuss the unyielding Allied terms before returning to their own lines. 25 hours later, they return. These historic pictures record their unconditional surrender of 1 million German troops. Von Friedeberg signs the instrument of surrender, followed by German General Kinzel. Montgomery signs. Fighting is now ended in northern Germany and Denmark. 2 days later, Colonel General Alfred Jodl, Nazi Chief of Staff, arrives at General Eisenhower's schoolhouse headquarters in Reims, France, to surrender all remaining German forces to the Allies. General Walter Bedell Smith, Eisenhower's Chief of Staff, gives the Germans the surrender terms. They are unconditional, like those of Alexander in Italy and Montgomery in North Germany. General Jodl, with Admiral Friedeberg at his left and Major General Wilhelm Oxenius right, signs the surrender documents. General Ivan Suslov-Parov represents the Red Army. The delegates of the 4 powers, Russia, Britain, France, and the United States, now sign. General Jodl represents Admiral Dönitz, who assumed control after the fall of Berlin. After conditional surrender offers, flatly rejected, the Germans had negotiated with General Smith for 33 hours. And now, in the early morning of the 7th of May, the war in Europe is over. General Jodl speaks Nazi Germany's last words. He delivers Germany's armies to the victorious Allies. The Allied delegates listen in silence. The war in Europe ends, as Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin had promised at Tehran and Yalta, in smashing defeat and unconditional surrender. General Eisenhower received the historic surrender pens. This is the glorious hour. The war against Germany is won. To all the forces of the United Nations, a thankful world says, well done.